to another episode of Salt and Lightheartedness.
Yeah.
I am Esther.
And I'm JILLENE.
Yes, and we are just saying welcome back.
Yes.
We are officially at episode number 6. Wow. Last episode.
That's yes.
Yeah,
not CA thing. Yes.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this episode, we are just going. Actually, before we get into that, we're gonna talk about briefly touch on what we talked about last episode, which was friendship. Friends.
Oh, it was so good.
How many of us have them? And so we were talking about in that episode, are you a high maintenance friend? Are you a low maintenance friend? And it was really a good episode. I think actually we concluded that we'll probably need to do an additional friendship episode, or maybe a few. Because there's a lot to be touched on actually in friendship. But if you have not listened to that episode, run that thing back, go check it out.
You gotta get with ASAP.
Get up to speed, because this episode is a fun one.
Oh, boy.
We are talking about. Yeah. You want to tell them what we're talking about this episode, JILLENE?
Ooh, child. The dating pool. Are you in or are you out?
Ooh. Is you in that thing or is you out that thing?
Yes. Oh my God. That dating pool. Why is it like a dating river? Why it got to be a pool? The pool is stagnant water. The river keeps flowing.
Yeah. In the river. And the river is deeper too. But you know what? Let's before we get all off in this thing, let us just go into it. All right, let's just jump right into it so we can maximize on our time.
I'm gonna put my feet in.
You gonna tip your toes in there.
Yeah,
you sure as you looking like Wow.
Well, wow.
So wait, before we get into this, maybe we should talk about our statuses. Should we talk about our status? I think we should talk about our status.
All right.
So
okay, I can talk about your status. Are you in the dating pool or not?
I can talk about it. Nah, I'm not in the dating pool. And even when I was in the dating pool, I wasn't in that thing because people are nuts. You hear me? These situations, I was like, baby, y'all don't know. I am not the one or the two. I am friendly, but I am not friendly enough to be sitting here enduring the ninja nonsense that was happening. And you had to step correct if we was going on any kind of date, even for coffee. Well, something to note, like, let's talk about that a little, like, what kind of dates are wholly unacceptable in 2024? Because I feel like some of these rules, some of these expectations.
It has to start with, are you wholly unacceptable? Don't matter where you go. But if you a freak, you gonna be a freak wherever you go. You're gonna be a freak in the church house. You're gonna be a freak at the park. You're gonna be a freak at the library. So are you wholly unacceptable?
That's the real one.
That's key.
Okay.
But we're gonna get into that. There are certain rules, regulations, suggestions that I think are helpful, especially if you're, putting that foot into the dating pool or thinking about jumping on in. There are some things that you might want to consider, but we're going to get into that. I tell you, this episode is about to be fun. We might go over time because there's a lot to cover.
Hold on now, because I see what you're trying to do there. I see what you're trying to do there. You didn't say what your status was, my good guy. You definitely just kind of glossed right on over that thing. You tried to gloss right over that.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Waiting on what?
Waiting on my husband to find me.
Okay.
I turned on my GPS, you know, and I hope his GPS is working well, and I hope our signals will meet and he will be able to find me because I think he might be a little lost. He might be using the MapQuest paper version, and I need him to
Not the
use
paper.
yeah, he's using the paper
But
and
you
there's
know
a
something?
detour and it wasn't
I don't
updated.
know. I don't
So
know. I think if he's using the paper joint, he might be the actual keeper. So maybe that's what's taking him a little longer because these ones using Waze and Google
I
Maps,
mean, how old
maybe
is he
they're
if he's still using the paper joint? I don't know.
my age. But
He's still using that
so
paper joint and
listen,
taking out the map.
we'll let this be a little clarion call. If you got your life right, if you got your mind right, if you're funny, if you're handsome, I'm gonna leave the height out. As long as we're not looking each other in the eyes, or not me. You're not looking her in her eyes, and she ain't that tall. But
Hey,
if you got a little height on you, if you got a little height on you, I'll do that there. You know, don't slide in the inbox if you acting crazy, because
please
we
don't.
will find you. Don't do it.
And
But if you got your life
crazy.
right and you trying to enter in something that sounds crazy, but if you're trying to date someone that looks like
With this
you, you can casually slide
story.
into her DMs, okay?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that too,
Nicely.
but ain't no entering. No entering.
Listen, listen, listen,
We will enter his
listen.
gates with thanksgiving
There you go.
and enter
And
his
enter that
courts with
date with
praise.
praise. That's what you're
Okay,
going to do.
that's
You see how this is about
oh,
to
we
go
entering. Yeah,
1000%
yeah,
to the
yeah.
left. Let's
I
bring
ain't
this
no
thing back on
evil.
right. Correct. But
Okay,
if you got your
that's
life right, I'm not joking. Hit your girl up. Or you could, you know what? I do you a solid. You could hit me up, and then
yeah. I
I'll
was
be
about
the
to
I'll
say,
vet.
see,
I'm good
that
with
was the Holy
vetting.
Ghost. The Holy Ghost was like,
I'm good with
nah,
that.
they should go through S, because
Yeah, I'm a good
she used to
filter.
work for the
I'm good with that,
CIA.
baby.
Okay, she used to work for the CIA, the FBI. Listen, she'll pull up your records.
Yeah, we'll
Don't
make sure
try
you're
no
right.
funny business. And then we got the Holy Ghost. So if there's anything,
And that's
he's
the
gonna
real
tell
one.
us. Okay.
He's gonna
Uh,
tell us.
all right. Let's finally start. Okay. Uh, what conversations did your parents have with you regarding dating? Because I think it really essentially starts at the foundation, right?
Yeah,
And those conversations and those experiences and those feelings that we have towards dating kind of uh direct us on the road and on the path for the
yeah.
most part. So you can start.
Um, I was definitely one of those young people that I was not really concerned with dating. Like I know a lot of people were at 14, 15 interested in dating. And just so we're clear, it was not that I didn't think like, oh, there's a cute guy. I was most certainly more involved with shopping, doing what I wanted to do, doing hair. So I was like, all right, boys are there. Like they'll always be there. So, it wasn't like I ever felt pressed to be talking about dating or like when is that time, just like, okay. And so also I think like if my parents ever really tried to have that conversation, I kind of was like, what are we
You're
talking
not
about?
trying to
You know
hear,
what I mean? Like,
right?
no. Okay. And at the end of the day, like I had an older brother. So I'm like, if anything, I'm just going to get that info from your man's. Okay. From my man's. He's going to tell me the real deal. He's going to tell me the truth. So I really didn't have that conversation with them. I remember, I guess the most notable thing was the purity conference, and we can talk about that
Oh
later if
yeah, that might
I
be a
think I
whole
think
nother
for sure.
episode, Lord.
Nah, for real. I think that is something because I have many thoughts about it. It was good. There was like my
The
experience with that was
attention,
was good.
the attention is definitely
Yeah.
good.
Um, and so in there, I think we talked about a bunch of different stuff. And so I remember this thing of this makes me laugh to this day because I still feel the
If
same.
I
I
have
remember
the
this thing came
picture,
up
I might throw
about
up that picture.
you can. of it was like talking about group dating. And I was thinking, because I guess I don't remember the purity conference. I feel like I was like maybe like around 16, like about to be 16 or so. And so I was like, baby, I'm not finna go on no group date. That's stupid. You know what I mean? Like, even though when typically we hung out, we were in groups, but it was like,
Right.
if I want to go out with one on one, then I will. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
if it's young, if the people are younger, we're all adults in this joint for the most part. So, you know,
Big adults at this
yeah,
point.
like, I mean, if you feel comfortable going on a double date, fine. Maybe but at some point, you're going to have to just hit the single date. But again, like, it's my personality. I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, definitely growing up in my um teenage years, it was kind of like this taboo subject.
Hmm.
I never felt the I guess the emotion of it was welcomed. So
Hmm.
uh I just didn't really do it. I would
Let me
talk to
ask you this
people.
question.
I would
Yeah.
talk to people,
But
but
you
it
know, it's
wasn't like
interesting because
official.
you had younger aunts, right? So like, why didn't you talk to your aunts, or did you talk to your aunts about dating, or you just kind of like,
I didn't. I didn't.
mm,
Growing up, child, my shirt is open. Oh, but
I don't, we don't.
good. Well, I hope not. But I ain't trying to get a date that way.
Yeah, we ain't
But
selling
I
nothing.
mean, not putting out my aunt's business, but growing up, I used to peek out the window and I would see them go out on dates. And now that I'm like thinking back, they were in their 20s and, early 30s. And I would see them, going out on, little dates and stuff like that. But there was never really any type of conversations or anyone that like kind of pulled me aside and said, this is how it goes. It was more so uh boys are these creatures that just have an insatiable appetite for my
Mm,
body. And
mm.
that kind of like just stuck with me in a sense. But there wasn't any type of, now that I look back at it, like healthy dialogue regarding dating and even friendships and relationships with the opposite sex. So
Let me ask you this. Do you think that, because I don't know, I guess at a certain point in life, you start kind of thinking over like your parents, not as your parents necessarily, but as people, right? And you're like, yeah,
yeah,
they're my parents, but like just the time period in which they came up in, right? Like, not that people didn't date, but at the young ages, like, these today people are talking about dating like relatively young,
yeah.
13, and people are asking their parents. Like, I could not even imagine saying to my parents at 13, like, I want to date, and them being
Mm-mm,
like,
but they
they probably
do.
been like, they do. But I'm saying, like, in my household, like, my parents are what? My dad's in his 70s, my mom's just hit 70. Like, and the way, in the time and period that they grew up, it was like, what are you talking about dating somebody at these ages? You know what I mean? Like, especially my mom, baby. You ask her, she was probably
Mm,
like, we was up
mm-mm.
at the crack of dawn milking cows. So, it was like, don't even, and not being funny,
Right.
like, it just wasn't a thing. You know, my mom went away to college and, pretty much was navigating college. And I think we did talk about a guy that she dated in college. And, and she like got to the point and she was like, she recognized like, this is not the person for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
this person, I believe he was going to become like on his way to being a lawyer. And she was just like, I was around his people and I was just like, no, like, this is
Mm-mm.
not
Right.
for me. This is this group, like, this is more high maintenance than I am. These people are just very different than I am, and this is ultimately not it. And then she moved up to New Jersey, and that's where she actually met my dad. So, like, I heard their story of dating,
Yeah.
and like she shared that, and my dad shared some like funny stories, but also they weren't necessarily like people who dated a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got married in their 20s. So, it's like how much dating was really actually going on. It was a very, for them, it was a very different time. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
my mom was like fast tracking from South Carolina, going to school, moving up this way, getting work. You know what I mean? Like went on a few dates here and there, but she like, it was never anything like very serious with these people because like almost immediately I knew like we ain't gonna make it, so it
It's
was
not
like
gonna work.
it was
Right.
never like anybody that they dated for like very long periods of time. I think the only person in my life that, or like when I was younger, and I mean really young, would have been my cousins who were like the same ages as your aunts,
Mhm.
and so they were like in their 20s and they were out and about. There were two guys, so they were like hot boys, so they was all over the place with all the dates. Okay,
Oh.
and wow. Okay. And yes, and versus my cousin who was really pretty, had this boyfriend who like they were just like the it couple, but child, she was about to kill him one night. And so, like
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, stay very far from that. I don't need that because he was a player, he was trying to play and she was like, you
Well,
know. And so those, I guess all the dating knowledge I gathered was from my good friends, right? And we were all the same age for the
oh
most part. So
boy.
we were like,
Yeah.
yeah, what
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there was no like dedicated conversations to dating. And then as you get older, there was definitely no conversations about like, you know, courtship. Well, I remember that word came up. And now you're like, now you got
Oh my
dating on this and
god.
you got courtship on this
Like
one. What's the
what?
difference? What is
Exactly.
what am I doing?
Right.
And I think that we looked this up, right? Like what was the main difference
Yeah.
between dating and courtship? And it was right that courtship is with the intentional, like you're dating with the intention of marriage at the end, like marriage is
Right.
the goal,
Right.
versus dating, which
What
is
is the intention behind dating?
dating could be a
I
plethora of
have
things.
it.
It could be hookups. It
Okay.
could be, I'm just out here for a good time, not a long time. It could be just, what God knows what. It doesn't mean
Okay.
that it's ending in marriage or even long term relationship.
Right.
It could be like I'm just dating to see, how many people I can. Who know? Dating has, no boundaries really, and so you know
I
in
mean, do you think that there are any specific challenges or pressures of like modern dating versus like previous generations? Honestly, I feel like previous generations had it easier. Say what you want. I feel like they had it
Why
easier.
I don't think so. I think it just looked different, right? Like,
Really?
yes, I think that, well, you know what? Let me back that up a little bit, right? Because I feel like societal standards for many things have just went down significantly. So while
Mhm.
before there's always been a person, a man or a woman who is just like nutty and they're going to do whatever they want to do. You know what I mean? They'll act
Yeah.
inappropriate. Like that's been since time immemorial. But I do think now today people will do things, and not think twice about it, where before people had some measure of shame to them. So
Yeah, we have a co-host in the house.
if I tell y'all what this girl is actively doing, and I knew she was doing it, I just let her do it. But Chloe's actually eating dirt from my plant. And so she just came
Mm.
over here with a mouthful of dirt. And you know what? It's above me now.
It
It is
is. It's
absolutely
above.
above me.
She's fine. She's fine. The Lord made dirt. Dirt can't hurt.
My plant probably ain't fine though. These fiddle figglies are funny. So, you know.
I mean, a little protein. Oh, Chloe. But as you were saying, you forgot.
I don't remember
You
what I
forgot
was
what you.
saying actually. Oh no, I was saying like societal standards have gone down, right? And so people before they might not so openly and honestly mistreat someone that they're interested in, right? They might
Mhm.
politely. just say, I'm not interested, right? Or this isn't going to
Yeah.
work. But today, people will just ghost you. And, or
Mhm.
people just do wild things, And again, and then you have all these other mediums of meeting people. You
Yeah.
have online, like before
Wow.
it was like, hey, this is my friend, this is my coworker, it was like
Yeah.
very
Yeah. You
interpersonal.
went to school
Today
with
there's so
them. Yeah.
many, yeah, there's pressures to think like, oh, the man has to do every and anything, I'm not going out to eat if it ain't to a 5-star restaurant. Well, I
Listen,
believe for sure.
they was taking people out to the juke joint and getting 25-cent hamburgers, and now they
Listen,
married 65 years plus now.
or even like
Just
my
saying.
father, right? My father actually got brownies from my mom. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously, like they went on other dates, but like they weren't rich or balling. You know what I mean? So their dates
Yeah.
were very intentional, but they were very like, I need to pause because Chloe's about to send me into orbit.
A few moments later.
So like going back to just the responsibilities and I guess the demands that you brought up regarding like dating today and like the cost of the average date and what have you. Yeah, okay, in 1955 it cost a nickel to take the date out and get a cheeseburger and a shake and some fries. I'm exaggerating.
For
But
sure.
I think what we've heard on social media is that women are demanding these big lavish dates every single week or every day. They're demanding these obnoxious gifts that, cost more than a car. And um are we really? I I don't think that is the actual norm. I think there are exceptions where there are women who do look at dating or do look at, a man as like this cash cow
I think that's
opportunist.
actually what I was going to kind of touch on before, right? Like I agree. I think that I'll use myself for example. Like let me kind of back this up, right? It kind of goes back to like maybe how you were raised, right? I
Mm-hmm.
am the only girl in my family, right? And so my first view of relationships were how my dad treated my mom, right? And how my
Right.
dad treated me. And so, my expectations were high because I was like, okay, my dad treats my mother wonderfully. You know what I mean? Like he does this
Yeah.
for her, he does that for her, unwarranted. It's not like she's asking or begging him to do X, Y, and Z
Right.
for him. He just does it because he loves my mom, and then in turn, when I got to a certain age, Valentine's Day, they were buying me something. There was a card for me there. You know what I mean? There were
Right.
things that I just came to expect that and it wasn't necessarily anything like over the top or like extra lavish. It was just like, this is a token of our love for you, right? And like
Right.
varying
Right.
varying degrees of expense, I'll say, right? So there was
Yeah.
never like I'm always expecting the grand, right? And then when it came down to dating as an adult, I was like, I mean, I can do all the things that I want for myself. So it wasn't like I was
Right.
expecting some man to do these things for me because I'm like, me, if we're going to eat, we're going to eat, right? We
We
want to
gonna
get
eat.
something, we're going to get exactly what we want. You know what I mean? And that, so there was always that, like, you have your own. So somebody coming along trying to, I guess I will say, entice you with things isn't necessarily, it's like, okay, thank you. It's
Thank
not
you.
like I'm
Right.
expecting you to take me to a restaurant I won't take myself. I think that's a
Right.
thing. Um,
I think that's the thing because um I've been out on a date and someone asked me if they took me to Applebee's, would that be okay? Okay, we can go to Applebee's. I mean, if that's your thing, but
yeah.
am I demanding that you take me to some five-star restaurant?
And I
No,
think
but would
let's
I,
just use
you
Applebee's,
know,
right?
like,
If
would
that's
I
not your
go
thing, like
there
if you,
at this
yeah, it's
point?
like
I'm
if
not
you're
gonna
not
go
going
there
there
at this
because you don't
point.
even eat there regularly,
I don't
right?
eat there anymore. Right. Have I?
Like
Oh
a date
yeah, the tip
there,
from Applebee's, baby. Okay.
yeah.
Applebee's was a good
And it's not
time.
like, listen, especially that old, happy hour joint, right? In the
Yeah,
evening, like
listen.
your money can
Woo!
go far and wide there.
Yes,
And
I
there's
get
a
it.
time and a place I think for those kind of dates, if that's your thing. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't like fast food or like those kind of places, then it's
Right,
never gonna appeal to you. I
right.
think though it's a learning curve for someone, especially if you're particularly just beginning dating, right? It's like if that's like there's so many circumstances. Like maybe it's late. That's the only thing that's open, right? Maybe there's you guys went to a show or something like that or a movie, and then when you come out,
Yeah.
like there's limited things open in your area. So hey, we're going there. We're gonna grab something from there or a
But
diner
what
or
if it's
like
not? What
if
if
it's
it's
not. And then,
not?
but I think again too, like maybe that's his wheelhouse. Everybody doesn't have your taste buds or mine. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm,
believe me, I feel like we can eat at the most expensive of places as and hole in the walls too. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm not. It's. I think that it's great to have what you prefer, right? And I think when someone's trying to win the affections of someone, right? Or just trying to get them to know them better, like there's questions you can ask, right? Like I think trying to gauge what kind of food you like if you have a limited palate, right? And like that's okay because everybody doesn't like caviar.
right.
You know what I mean? And just because it's expensive doesn't mean you gotta like it. And so I think that just I don't know. I heard somebody say that they don't want coffee dates. Um, that's not a date. I'm like, it is a date. If you're going out and you're getting to, what are your
Right.
expectations, right?
I think
I
I
guess
I
another
think
thing is like,
also I think for me is also the intention behind it. Um,
hmm
if you're just throwing something together and like we're discussing going out to eat and this is like a week in advance or several days in advance and you're just like, I guess we can just go to Applebee's and you're not really putting any type of effort, thought into anything.
yeah,
Um,
because when
that
there's been no
communicate
thought,
that
yeah,
yeah, that communicates something to me. Whereas, okay, yeah, you might think of Applebee's and then, you have something else planned. Okay, cool. But if you're just going with something because that's the easiest for you or you're not really putting much thought into it, that's communicating um how you might view me and how you might see me in a sense because of the effort behind it.
hmm.
You get what I'm
I
saying?
I do. I definitely think that there's so much here. I think dating, and this might sound funny, but I feel like dating has become overly complicated. I feel like, and not just dating, I feel like many things in life have become overly
Yeah,
complicated, right?
yeah.
I'll give, like, so here goes something I'll just throw in the conversation, right? Like, how much is expected? Like, is there an expectation on how much one should spend on a first date?
No, because my rule of thumb, and
So
I'm
for
speaking for
you, you're
myself,
saying
right?
no. Okay.
I'm speaking for myself. When I go out on a date, and this is any date, I'm always going to get whatever I can pay for. I'm going in
Yeah.
in it with the intention of if they decide that they don't want to pay for my plate, I'm good. I don't need you to
Big
pay for
facts.
my plate. So I'm not going into it where I'm like, "Ooh, this is a free meal. I'm about to get me this. I'm gonna get me all the lobster.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get me the prime rib, and then I'm gonna get me four desserts."
Right.
I'm
Meanwhile,
not
can't
going
even eat
into
all of that.
right. I'm going
Yes.
in, yeah, right. I'm going into it as I'm having a meal with somebody who I'm interested in learning more about. And yes, we're gonna have great conversation over some great food. I'm gonna pick the
Okay.
things that I would normally get if I was paying out of my pocket, and that's that. If he decides to get, prime rib and all the appetizers, cool. That's what he hopefully can afford. Okay. Hopefully he
I-
can afford
I'm
what he's
chuckling.
ordering.
I'm chuckling because I actually have, like, I didn't date a lot, and I think I explained why, right? Like, I know what I like. It doesn't take me, if I met someone when I was single, right, that I was, they wanted to take me out, right? In the first 5 to 10 minutes, like I already knew if this was going somewhere or not. I'm not one of those people who, you know, I don't need to sit through a whole first date to know if I'm gonna see you again. And so there was this guy, he just kept asking to take me out. And I knew that ultimately I really like had no interest in dating this person. I told him from the gate, like, I don't want to go out, but he just kept pursuing me. And so
Wait,
circumstances,
is this Kevin Hart?
no, no. Stop. Before somebody really think this is, let me tell you, this one
No,
did
we
resemble
have
another
nicknames.
celebrity
We
though.
got nicknames. That's the
This
thing.
one,
Us girls, we
I
got
don't remember what
nicknames
his
for
nickname would have been.
every person we date, every person we're interested in, every person who's interested in us. We will have
Big
a
facts.
nickname for you,
Well,
okay?
I don't know if
But
anybody else does, but we certainly do. And so this guy, the circumstances were like just right that it was raining really bad out here in New Jersey. And I was like, you know what? Like, I knew that he didn't live too far from me. And so I was like, you know what? He didn't have a car, and I was like, I'll drop you off, right? And so he's
mhm.
like, all right, cool. And so then, like, I already knew this was going downhill because when we got to my car, your man said something about my Bible, and he was like, oh, you got one of them in here. And so I was like, okay, like, first of all, I'm gonna leave you right there at the bus stop. But I was like being
Yeah.
nice because it was like a torrential rain. Like it was like an awful rainy day. So I was just being nice, right? Caleb was with me. So, like, I was fine without him, but he was there. So it was like an extra
Right.
level of, you know.
Safety.
And that day, that traffic was just so bad. And he was just talking,
Oh my
talking,
god.
talking. Also, talk about somebody who could not read the room. He was just talking. He was so full of himself. And I was like, Lord, I'm about to leave my own car on the side of the road because I was so irritated.
No.
But after that, I was like, you know what? I done endured this foolery. Your man's, guess what? Guess what we're going to do tonight? We going out to eat, okay? On you. And so we went to, actually, he asked me if I would take him to the mall to return something or other. And I was like, sure. Now, I
Sure.
think that this is something that I should probably share about myself. Sometimes I will just let situations go to see how far they're going to go, right? And so this was one of those days. I was like, I have nothing to do. I don't have any clients tonight. Sure, I'll take you to the mall. And so we go to the mall, go to the store, and already, like, I'm like, my spirit's like a little vexed because I'm already like, this is going to the garbage bin,
Nowhere.
actually.
Right.
Like, this
Right.
is
Right.
going absolutely nowhere. And so we did a couple things, and I'm like, okay, let's knock out two birds with one stone. So we went to Jersey Gardens at the time, and there wasn't like very many restaurants, but there was, I think it was like Chili's. And I was
Right.
like, I think that might have been the first time I've probably ever ate at Chili's. And I was like, there's a
Okay.
restaurant right down there. Like, let's sit down and let's actually have a conversation. And so, we'll go to eat. And I'm like, how high could the bill be in Chili's? And it was like legitimately a, like,
Right. Get you
happy
some baby
hour.
back ribs. Right.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
like, I go in there and I'm with like you. Like, I was raised to, cover what you can eat, eat what you can cover. And so I knew I was good regardless of what I ate,
Right.
right? Or what I chose. And so he gets in there and he's just an ordering fool. Okay, he is
Oh,
like, let's get an appetizer, let's get this
okay.
drink. He have a drink.
Let's
I'm like, I don't
go.
even think I had a drink
Right.
because I was like, I don't know this person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was just like, it was like the
No.
middle of the week. So it just wasn't a thing for me. And I was like, all right. So he orders one drink. And the first thought was like, why was he ordering that drink? It was like some tutti
It
fruity
was
setup. I'm like,
fruity.
this is
Mm.
stupid. Like, like,
Mhm.
why did he order that? And I was just like, I don't know why that kind of like struck me. Probably because like no men that I know drink like those, like, like a girly drink is what I would call it, right? Like,
Listen,
this is,
I'm
hey,
not gonna
listen,
say nothing.
It was his preference, like, but it
maybe
made me
he wanted a
chuckle.
little
I won't
something fruity.
lie.
Okay.
Listen, well, he must like it because he ordered he ordered the second one, so he enjoyed the drink, right? And I was just like, okay, whatever. And so then the food comes
Wait,
out,
wait, wait.
and this
Did it
is,
have a little umbrella in it?
don't give me the line because I feel like it did, but in my mind it did. It
Put
had
a
the
little
little,
cherry,
it had the little pina colada
a
joint,
little cherry.
but it was definitely like one of those kind of drinks. And so, the food comes out, and this is where things absolutely started going downhill. He reached over to my plate and ate
No,
like my French fries.
no,
When I tell you, I was like, I
no.
know my face showed
Wait, he
exactly
didn't
what I was.
ask or nothing. He just reached
He did
over.
not ask. He reached directly over that table and ate my French fry. And I was like, oh,
No,
now you can have the rest of them. You can
right,
have them all. And so, I was already like, like it was like already I was like, I could
over it.
just get up and just leave this whole situation,
Right.
and I was just like, but I'm riding the wave, right? Um, so then we eat our food, we doing all this talking. The man's just ordering. He just ordered. I don't remember what the man ordered, okay? But
No.
at the end, the waiter comes out.
Oh,
He gives the bill to the young man. And just so I'm clear, we were young. I was in my 20s. He was actually
oh.
older than I was, right? And like not by much. I would say maybe 2 years or so, right? And
Why
so
am I
he gives
nervous?
he gives the young man the bill. Young man opens the joint. He looks at it. He says he does a little like that. So I'm like, let me get my debit card out because I already see where this is going, right? And so he looks at it, he closes it, and he doesn't say anything. And so, I've already calculated what I owe, plus the tax and the tip. So I already knew I was good. And I didn't even eat like my bill was like $20 single, like by myself. And I was,
Right, because like it's chilly.
then he goes on to ask me, hey, would you mind covering this bill? Because I just bought a couple things from Saks and I don't have it.
Wait a minute. No, wait a minute. No, wait. I don't think I heard you right. Wait. Uh, you said covering your bill. That's what he said?
The bill. The bill in its entirety.
Because
And I ain't gonna
why?
hold you.
Because he went to Saks.
The bill might have been $60. And he is the one who ate
Saks
the
was
bulk
balling
of.
out. I
And
would have grabbed that Saks
let
bag
me tell you
so quick.
something. It wasn't nothing in there I needed. And so I said, oh,
Oh
I got
no, I'm
you.
talking about to return.
Look, I said, I got you. I paid that bill and he had to run to catch up to me because guess what? I also had to drop your man off at his house. And so, it was one of those situations where I was like, this is exactly why I don't waste my time playing around with people. I knew it wasn't going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, if this is what people think they're going to do when they take me out, you can keep it.
No.
And so when I went to work, because all these people in my office knew that he was like always asking to take me out. Like he would do this in the public. Like, so it wasn't just like he would always ask people in front of, oh, I'm trying to get her to go out with me. She won't go out with me. And so when I went to work, I did the due diligence of saying,
Yeah.
guess what? We went out and he left me with the bill. I had
Yeah.
zero problems airing him out in that office.
And I had
And
to drop
so,
him
and
off.
he wasn't a coworker, so it was fine. Yeah. And so when I tell you the looks on everyone's faces, but I was like, y'all knew this is who that guy was. You know what I
Right.
mean? I just had time that day. But, I was like, if this is what this looks like, I can
I don't want
understand
it.
why women just be taking their friends out and hanging out with their friends because, well, child, some of these friend stories ain't much better. But I mean, people have
No.
genuinely good friendships. Like I can understand why people are like I'm good on the dating scene because the way
Yeah.
people and believe me, I'm also not a person, and you can tell me what you think of this. Splitting the bill is not a big deal for me, right? Like great, you can cover the bill, I can cover the bill. One
Right.
day I might cover,
Right.
one day you might cover it. Splitting the bill is not a
Yeah.
thing for me, right? Like I understand some people are like flabbergasted when that happens, but I will say early on, right? And even just throughout
Mhm.
the relationship, I feel like it's not all on you, right?
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
again, that's me and my personal situation. But most people have never asked me to split a bill. Most men I've been out with have not asked.
Right.
He did, but he was again, like I knew I could see the writing on the wall from the jump, you know. I feel like we have to be
I think as
realistic
women,
too.
we do know. I think as women, we do know because I mean, I've been in situations where I knew that the dude was broke. Okay, I knew he didn't
Right.
have it,
It's not funny, but you know, it's like,
but
and
then it's not like you just step into a little bit of that delulu that
because
you know
that's something that we
mysteriously.
got to be real with, right? Like I feel like
Yeah,
there are plenty of us who step into Delulu land and then be trying to act like what happened? Like what
what
happened is,
happened? Why do I have to pay for the bill? You knew you didn't have no money, girl.
but you know what I think is
Like,
actually diabolical in those matters? The ones who saw Delulu land, entered into it, and then want to come out and be talking about, can you believe he did X, Y, and Z? Like, girl,
yeah,
and
no,
like,
don't
listen,
do
it's
it.
fair, especially like especially when you're in like your early 20s, right? Or maybe I will give you this. Maybe you've been one of them ones who was in a relationship for a very long time from a young age. And so maybe you're just like in your late 20s, early 30s, coming into dating and it's very new and different for you, right? And
Right.
so maybe you caught a stray. Don't catch it two
Pew
times. You
pew.
know, I
Okay.
think that it's okay to say like some dates are just not great, but I think also too it is super important to voice things that, especially if there's something about this person that you like, right? And like you're a little disappointed. And so maybe you're like, I don't want to vocalize that I didn't like this part of the date because you think, oh, maybe
Right.
he's not going to want to see me again. I think it's important to just be honest, right? Because maybe
Be
just you're,
honest.
especially when you're not no learning someone, right? They don't know you like that. You can
You
think
got nothing
someone's
to lose,
reading this,
baby girl.
you know, it's right. Like at the end of the day, if he says, oh, well, I'm not willing to do X, Y, and Z, then you're like, okay, that's it. No harm, no foul. Next person, you know. But dating is definitely interesting. You know, I today in 2024, some of the stuff I see online, my heart actually
Baby,
aches for people
eggs for
who
me
want
because
to
I'm still
date,
out
and
here
then
and
you see
it's
these
plenty.
things, and but I think too, I think this is a part of the problem, right? I think a lot of what we see comes from like social media or, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
these hot takes that people
Right.
share. And
Right.
so it's not necessary. I don't think, right, if I'm being honest and optimistic, right, I do not believe that this is the dating pool at large. I think it's a very small portion of the dating pool that is getting the spotlight, right? I think it's like the gnat. You know, the gnat is like always in your ear. You're like, ah. And this is
Right.
obviously because people are like, you know, you're drawn to it because you're like, my God, the audacity, you
Right.
know. I do think that there are very solid men and women out here, both saved and
Absolutely.
unsaved, who are quality people. But I think a lot of times y'all are all hiding in your homes, you know, or you're at work, or, you know, hiding in your business, or, you know, you're trying to advance yourself in those capacities. And so you're not out and about, you know, maybe you're not really a social butterfly in that capacity, right? That you're not like out at this place or that place, or, you know,
Right.
so it's kind of hard to find quality people. At least people step up and say, hey, I have this friend that, you know, maybe you guys want to, you know, I love the idea of introducing people who are, you know, not that you're like, oh, this is a love connection, but like, hey, you're single, you got a good head on your shoulders,
But
you know,
can
your
I
quality.
say something to that? Because
Go ahead.
people do that. And it's like, girl, you know you wouldn't date this person, okay?
But see, that's not what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking
But
about like,
that's more
don't
the
play in
case.
nobody's face now. Don't
And
pl-
it's like you know you wouldn't date this person.
And
So,
well, you
you know,
know, speaking for
I
myself, you know, I
thank you
would
so
never.
much. Right. But I'm just
I
saying,
have not
you
ever.
wouldn't, but in my experience, okay, you have they be like, well, I know Roger. Roger, Roger is a great guy. Roger this, that, and the other. But then when you look at Roger, you meet Roger, you're like, how in the world did you think that this would be a
Did you
good
think
fit with
Roger was
me?
going to be a good? But also, let me say this. I think that it also comes down to knowing someone, right?
Yeah,
Um, I believe that I know the people that I know that I would ever consider doing something like that with well, right? And I would, while there might be a thing that I'm like, oh, this isn't necessarily her checklist, but if it's not something that's crazy, you know what I mean?
right,
Then I
right.
would still be like, okay, give it a shot, right? Because, and I mean, this person has the essence of like the things that actually matter. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he might be a couple of inches off. Maybe that's and I'm not talking about a mini, but hear what I'm saying. Like maybe he's not 6 feet,
A,
maybe he's 5'8". You know
a
what I'm
mini,
saying? Stop. Don't
a,
send me into orbit
a
today because I'm
mini.
about to go.
Did you just
But
call him a
even
mini?
I did. I
A
did.
bite size,
Fun size.
a miniature, a my little.
But listen, even in that, at this point, I'm saying that if this person is like an actual has checks off all the boxes that really matter, right? Will you be so foolish? Because you know my life. Would I be so foolish to throw the baby out with the bathwater? And I almost was.
Well,
That baby almost went with the tub in
well,
that water, okay? Because
well.
miss me.
Oh,
Listen, but thank God
please
for
do.
friends. Thank God for friends, you know.
That's a
But I
story.
think really, you have to, for sure, say to yourself, like, I know this person. Would this person really, actually, truly be happy with this person I'm presenting, right? And but outside of that, I don't know how people be online dating. Let me tell you, I have seen some wonderful stories, but
This
in
is a
my mind, and I
whole nother
think it,
episode
it is.
because
But I think for me, like why I never ventured into that is
hmm.
because I used to watch a
So
lot of I.
wait a minute. You don't consider Black Planet online dating? Because back in the day, that's
You
how you
you know
met
what I'm talking
people.
about. I'm talking about like real systems that exist for that solely. Not like, Instagram. There's a lot of people. There's a couple of couples that I found who actually met on
And the
Instagram.
sliding in the
They're
DM?
married. Yes, and they are
Mm,
married and they are doing well,
damn.
and and I was like, okay,
Mm.
it's a big world. Think about that. It's a big world out here.
Only
So,
people in my DMs be scammers and
yeah, listen, that's the other thing. Sometimes there's a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's such in my DMs," or there's a lot of people in there, and yeah, it's like tell the truth, it's a lot of spamming. Okay, it's a lot of foolery in there, and just because it's a lot of people in it, don't mean it's quality people, right? So
no,
there's that. Like, I really do believe that there are a lot of people who really want to be married, right?
right,
Again, I just think you have to expand or open your mind to different things, right? Like different
right.
sections of the country, right? Like I saw this girl, she was like, girlfriend was in China. Like once they got over here, like it's a big world, and obviously most times you're gonna start locally, right? But
Right.
yeah, expand in 2024, especially if you don't like what you're seeing locally. And not that you don't like what you're seeing, but you know what I'm saying.
Or expand into another race. Huh.
I said expand. That wasn't just for,
I
you know,
mean, expand
expand.
your horizons, because
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, I don't believe into, to go into this scarcity mindset, right? And
yeah,
especially pertaining to the ratios of Black men to Black women and Black men that are available to Black women. Um,
yes.
but playing around with the idea of opening my horizons, you know, essentially, I know
I
God knows exactly what I need and what I want. So I know he's gonna hook me up, but hmm,
Let me tell you. So I think too that there is something we have talked about this before. I think when you are raised in church, right? That and we'll use the purity conference as like our parameters, right? You're taught like there's a person for each person who desires to be married, right? Because there's some people who have the gift of singleness. They don't desire
right,
to be married. They don't
right.
desire to have children. And they are 1000% uh, confident and happy in that place, right? They are
Good
the
for
rich auntie. They are the rich
yeah,
uncle. They are just enjoying, they are called to singleness. And I think that's beautiful. There are also, I think for the rest of us who want or have that desire to be married, they're like, there's that person for you. And I will speak for me, it's like as a child, you tend to take stuff very literally, right? Like,
right,
okay, so you're like, there is a singular person
right.
out here for me. And
Let's
while
call him
obviously you're
Tom.
going to
Hmm.
marry one person, right?
Right,
But what I've come to learn, or in my experience, I'll say, when you meet someone who seems like the right thing, right? Or like you're like, oh, for that time in your life, this person checks
right,
all the boxes, right? Then you're like, could this be the one? Right? And so then you start treating the one, they're the prospective one,
right.
like that's your spouse. And a lot of times it will allow you to run past pink flags, red flags, stuff that
Orange,
you're like, okay, this ain't the person. You know what I mean?
magenta.
And you're just like, I'm trying to make it work. You're trying to say, like,
Yeah,
is this the person? Is this my guy? Is this my girl? And we
right,
are oftentimes more head over heels than we should be in these relationships, right? I think it wasn't until I was well into my 20s that I was like, instead of thinking like that, right? And thinking like, oh, there's just, every person I meet, like, is this my prospective spouse? Like, long term, my husband? I think that you should date with intention, right? Like, if you're interested in being married, obviously, I think those conversations
right.
should be, especially if this is getting like more serious than not, those
Mm-hmm.
are conversations that should be had very early on, even if marriage is just on your horizon. Not that it's tomorrow, but if you're like, I would like to be married, I don't see any problem with saying those things date one or two, because I'm going to tell
Right,
you what it's going to do. It's going to clear that room. If the person is not interested in being married, if they're
right.
upright, they're going to be like, well, I don't ever want to be married, or I don't see that in the next 5 years for myself, so you can get on up out of there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't care how
And you don't
fine he or
waste
she is.
anybody's
If they're,
time, right?
yeah,
Well, like
I believe in doing those things.
piggybacking on that, when do you think someone should have the conversation, especially if you're a Christian and you're abstaining from sex? When do you think that should be a discussion?
I mean, for me, all of that stuff is upfront and early, because I don't want anybody to have the wiggle room
So
to
like
be like,
first
well,
date?
you led me on. I got zero. You know my life. I'm gonna ask you. I will ask you your credit score on the first date. I don't care. You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't care, but there's things in my life that I always knew I wanted, right? And so why would I be playing around with someone who doesn't want those things, right?
Yeah,
Like, and then what's the shame in that? Like, I'm not having sex until I get married.
yeah.
So then
There's
that
no
person could
shame.
say, "Oh, sis, that's on you. You can do whatever you want. I'm out." Like, I think that's fair. Why, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would you not
Right.
say those things up front? Because otherwise it feels like a little deceptive. You know what I mean? If you're that nervous that someone's going to run out on you after date one or two, if you say that,
No, yeah,
that's not your person. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, they don't have to agree with it, but if you're letting it be known, like, this is me, this is what I'm into, this is what we're not
And
doing.
I think as women, or even well, also mention men who are Christian and abstaining, you kind of know going into that first date where someone might stand.
Yes, I will say, particularly if you recognize that a person is for real about their walk with the Lord, right?
Yeah,
And that's not to say that, because I don't want someone to hear this and think that I'm saying if you have backslid on abstinence, right? Because let's be real, that happens, right? That doesn't mean you just throw the whole situation out, right?
Please don't.
And I also, I don't think that's a conversation that need to come up if you plan on
Right.
abstaining. Maybe that's something as you guys grow down the line, you could say, hey, this was I had this hiccup here, but I've been on the straight and narrow since. Um, but yeah, I think those are things that should come up early,
Yeah.
and like you said, if you're getting, people present themselves all kind of ways. I will say that too. Sometimes it looks like it's going one way, and then the fruit of that person's life starts actually showing.
Right.
And I will
Right.
say this, when the fruit of that person's life starts showing and it's looking like it ain't good fruit, hit the brakes. You know what I mean?
Immediately.
Men or women. It's like,
Right.
you wouldn't play around with, why play around?
Right.
And I understand that sometimes it looks like, oh, this is gonna be a long time, I'm never gonna meet the person, and like, you always want the best, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
Absolutely.
it's just not worth, just for company's sake, you know what I mean, just hanging out with anybody or somebody who
No.
can pay for the
Because before you know
restaurant, or
it, you'll
that.
definitely get yourself hemmed up in situations that you never even intended to be. You're compromising in what you're originally setting forth to do. And then before you know it, you somehow develop some type of feelings for someone, and then you're stuck.
Yeah, and let me tell you, in 2024, just say no to situationships.
Just say no
It's a
to
big no.
dating.
It's a big no. Like, you are worth, men and women, you are both
Right.
worth more
Absolutely.
than that. Way, 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 way more than that. And that's not God's best for you. I'm here to tell you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I think the other thing is, dating should be fun. If it's getting to the point that it feels like it's just not, reevaluate, go back to the drawing board. I think that I will speak for myself. When I started dating my husband, I had to tell myself actively, enjoy the process. Let this person lead. You know what I mean? Like, let him open the door for you, because this is funny, but maybe this is going to help someone. We were going to Target one night. I will never forget
Mhm.
this. And so I don't even know if we were like officially dating at this point. But, I'm so accustomed to doing everything myself and, just just doing my own thing, that, and I'm very quick, right? And so, like, I was like in the store, right? And so one day he's like, Esther, like, by the time I'm getting out of my car, you're in the store. I didn't even realize that I was like, just, I'm so accustomed to, okay, I'm getting out of the car, I'm going to the store, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I didn't
Out.
even realize I was leaving him back there at all.
Right.
And so I had to, like, I was actually talking to myself, like, slow down,
Right.
let him take the door, let him grab
Right.
the door for you. Like, I had to do that, to let him lead. A lot of times we're
Right.
so fast. You would plan a date. We will do everything. We'll
Okay.
do everything, and it's like,
Okay. I I guess.
I'm like, you just have to take it one date at a time, okay?
Yeah.
And I think too, like, being for real, like, and just having open and honest conversations, right? Like, we went on this date, I enjoy your company, but I don't like this, right? And I don't think it's nitpicking, right? Because I think that it might work out in your behalf, that you guys go on a couple
Right.
more dates and maybe it works out, right? Maybe this person says, okay, it's something I can change about myself because maybe no one brought it up. I think that's another thing today. People are so quick to just be like, this ain't gonna work. They don't give feedback, right? Because they're like, I'm not really
Right.
worried about what he do with the next person, but you should be. And because prayerfully, somebody will do that for maybe the person that you're considering dating, right? Maybe they'll be like, hey, women don't like when you do this, or,
Right.
Applebee's might be your favorite. I don't know why we picking on Applebee's today, but,
Listen, I
Applebee's,
don't
Longhorn,
know,
or
but
any place might be your favorite place. But hey, maybe you want to try to go a little upscale, or maybe you want to go local, try a local spot, like sometimes, like, there's so much to consider when you're dating people.
Right.
Like maybe this person didn't grow up going to like mom and pop
Right.
restaurants or local restaurants or trying different foods. You know, like there's so much there. You know, I can say that, and I know someone might be like, oh, it's not my job to do da da da. Like in real
But
life,
there's a way to actually give back input. Let's say Ralph, we'll use that name. Ralph
okay.
suggests, okay, hey Jilliene, I'd like to take you to Applebee's. I don't eat at Applebee's. I would enjoy trying out a new restaurant, in town. So instead I might say, oh, Applebee's, okay. I don't really eat at Applebee's, anymore. But are there any other restaurants around that area that, you haven't tried before? I'd love to try something new with you. And so that still gives him the control of, yeah, finding another place and also letting him know that I don't necessarily care for Applebee's or, you know, a chain restaurant like that.
Yeah.
But it's not
I
saying,
think
oh,
like, oh, don't nobody eat that. Why you like that?
why are you taking me to Applebee's? Like that's mad disrespectful. I don't, it doesn't have to be that. It could just simply be a conversation like, hey, I don't really care for Applebee's. Is there somewhere else, nearby that we can maybe try together that you haven't been to, or, or what's your favorite, meal? Let's see if we can find another restaurant that has that.
I think you actually just said something that's really good and might be worth, helping. This might be helpful to somebody. Asking what the favorite meal is really is probably an even better thing than being like, hey, have you tried this restaurant or whatever? Because at least that way you're like, okay, I know what kind of food this person prefers,
Yeah,
right? And so then you're like, okay, while that might not be your favorite spot, you're like, okay, let me see what has a similar, you know what I mean?
right.
And then sometimes it just don't work out, right? And it's okay. I
And it's
think
okay.
I think that like, or even if it's 5 dates in and like there's just something that you're like, I can't put my finger on it, but it just this doesn't
It
it's
doesn't
not
feel
going
right.
in the right
That's
direction.
fine.
It's okay to have an amicable split and be like, you know what? I really enjoyed the times that we had together, but it's just not working for me. Like it doesn't have to, and
And
if the person
knowing
asks
when to
you,
have that conversation, because
yeah,
I've had a experience where I enjoyed going out with someone. We just had a good time, going to different places, eating at different restaurants. And I mean, months went by and I never felt that spark, but I enjoyed their personality. And then it was literally maybe about 9 months in, which I think I took too long to have
for
certain
sure.
conversations. And I think
Yeah.
there was probably this hope of this attraction switch that would just click and go
Mm,
on, but it never clicked because we weren't compatible in that
yeah.
in that sense. And
Mm,
he had a discussion with me, and the funny thing is I felt the exact same way. He was just like, I really enjoy like spending time with you, going out, but the romantic attraction is not there. And I didn't want to say, bruh, me too. I feel the same way because I didn't
you
want it
should
to come
have
off
like
as the
but
petty in a
I
sense.
feel like since you guys not no, I feel like since you
Because
guys
there
had
was
already
nothing for me
had
to
that like
gain. There was nothing
yeah,
for
like
me to
I feel like
gain
once
at
you
that
already
point,
had that
you
like
know?
that sense like and I feel like well let me ask you this because I think I know my answer, but I'll ask you this because you were in hindsight, when do you think at what date number do you think it would have been best for you to bring up like, hey, this like I like you platonically. You know what I mean? Like what date
Uh,
would should that have been?
you want to know the truth?
Yes.
Truly, honestly, it would have been that first date. I
Mhm.
just was
Mhm.
not attracted to him.
So
He was talking
you
to
would
me. No,
mhm.
he was talking to me. I remember it. He was talking to me, and I took a commercial break. I was there, but I was not interested. I wasn't interested, but I enjoyed hanging out, going to different places. I'm a foodie. I enjoy different places to eat. We had like different experiences. We went to different festivals. We went to different museums. We had a good time, and he was a Christian. So yeah, the conversation that
And
we would have had, like sometimes
you let this ride for 9 whole months.
because people, some people say, sometimes the attraction isn't always there. So if you have a good friend,
Let's pause right there though, right? Because
uh,
there is certainly, because you said something about the spark, right? And I will say this, you don't necessarily have to have the spark, right? Like, and especially not after date one. No, I'm telling you,
the spark
right?
should
Like,
come. I feel like the spark should come. Within nine
it
months, you
depends.
don't feel any
No, no,
type
no.
of
I didn't. Oh,
spark.
no, 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 no. I'm not talking about 9 down the joint. I am not talking about 9 months in. But
Like,
even with that, it's like, what kind of spark are we talking about? And don't no, stop because I'm about to start laughing. But you know what I'm saying. Like
no,
I
no,
know exactly
no.
what you're
A
saying,
spark
right? But
of,
listen,
okay,
listen.
I'm attracted to this person. Physically, I like looking at this person. There has to be something more than just I like hanging out with you. That you're a good friend. You're a great
Yeah,
friend.
but
But when I'm
so I
looking
guess
at this, when I'm looking at
that's
this man's
another question though, right?
eyelashes, I'm looking at his eyelashes like, oh, he has really nice eyelashes. And that is the
And that's
only thing.
and that's the only thing. So at that point, you should have been clocked out. But I guess my point is like, well, then let me pose this question to you. Let's say that the person checks all the boxes as far as like things that matter like internally, right? The things that you can't pay for to change, right? Um, this person has a great relationship with Christ, like he's a leader, he's this, he's active in his community. And let's say that he's not like let's say he's just like, oh, this is gonna sound crazy, but let's say he's just a little bit not your type, right? Well, let's just say he's
Um,
not your type. Let's just wholly say that because what I was gonna
you
say was
was
gonna
gonna say a
sound
little bit
hilarious.
ugly. You was gonna say a little
I
bit
was, but
ugly.
I really actually don't like the way that sounds. But let's just say he's just not your type in the
Okay.
physical sense, right? Like at what do we get wrapped up too much in the physical? Like I will I'm asking you that, but I'm also gonna answer it. And I will say that while I think you should have some level of attraction to a person, right? That's a preference, right?
Right.
I will also say that love and attraction grows as the relationship grows, if it's a good, solid relationship, right?
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of today's issue, and not just today, but I think a lot of stuff today, what people are looking for is superficial. And I'm not saying what you're looking for is
Yeah,
superficial,
no.
but I think a lot of times, that's probably why that's exactly why I was asking the question about like the spark, right? Because what if you actually meet your person and you don't have that spark initially, but you're getting that sense from the Holy Spirit, like this is your person.
Oh, I'm down. Obviously, I'm down to wait it out 9 months in, but
But are
it
you
has to
really?
be. But no, really, that was my question. I said, at what point do you think like, huh? All right, I'm enjoying spending time with this person. They check off all the boxes on my list, but I
Yeah.
still don't have this romantic attraction towards them, right?
Mm.
Or
And,
I don't
mhm.
feel even from them a romantic attraction towards me, right?
Mhm.
So when
Mhm.
you both feel the same way, when should you say, you know what? I think we're better off as friends.
No,
At what
honestly,
point?
I think we answered that, but I'll go back and I would say for me, I would say one date, unless you just know, like I just don't like this, like myself, right? Like I don't want to never see you again. one is it, right? If I'm enjoying this person's company, but I'm like, there's something I can't put, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, let me explore this more. Like, he's not my type, but let me explore this more. I think at max, and I mean absolute max, 3 dates. If by 3 dates you're still like something, you know what I mean? Like something, and not like you said, not that you don't enjoy the
Right.
person's company, but you're like, I don't foresee this going further, and I'm getting
Right.
the feeling that this person feels the same way about me. By 3 for sure. You just need to bring it up and be like, hey, I don't know if it's just me or not, but like, I like you. I'm enjoying our time, but I see this more platonically. No
I
harm,
think
no
we
foul.
had
Because if that
I
person says the same,
right.
you're like, all right, great. Then we can choose to be friends. You know what I mean? Now you've earned it. You gained
Absolutely.
a friend, but you don't waste months of your months of
Right.
your
No,
life.
not at all. I think we're actually gonna have to do a part 2 on this because
I think so.
there's so much involved. There's so many nuances. Um, I think we're definitely gonna have to do a part 2. So if you got this far in this episode, we encourage you to definitely send us some of your stories, both good and bad. We would
Yeah.
love to hear from you. And just, we would just want to hear your comments regarding uh, just anything that we've said or spoken about regarding dating, and definitely dating as a Christian, dating, being abstinent. We want you to sound off. So please get in our comments because we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, we would love to hear this. Maybe we should have a segment if enough people want to share. Maybe you guys, if you want to send stories, email them to us at saltandlightheartedness@gmail.com. Or can they leave it on the website?
They can leave it right on the website. We got a
You
space
can
on
go
the
right to
website.
our website, saltandlightheartedness.com, and like leave your stories there. And maybe if we have enough, we could actually do a segment where we're reading or sharing the stories. And
Oh,
we can do it
that'd be
anonymously,
hilarious.
or or we'll just
Absolutely.
use initials or make up names or whatever. But that might be very fun because I definitely have more wild stories. But
Definitely.
we would love to hear the stories. We would love to hear your take on like what you think about dating. Are you dating? Are you looking? Or maybe we can even get some maybe some single
Oh,
women share
listen,
their profile
we're
pictures.
gonna get a whole little thing set up for sure, for sure.
Because let
But
me tell
we
you, I feel like we know enough people that
listen,
like there's some quality people hiding out,
we're gonna bring
and
them
so maybe
on.
we
We're
need
definitely
to
gonna
call you
do
out to
it.
the
Maybe
surface.
we do a Facebook
Um,
Live situation, something. We're gonna hook it up. We're gonna hook it
yeah,
up.
because
We're
I
gonna
think
hook
that
it
we can
up.
go live on here, right? I think we can go
We could
live.
do
So
it
maybe we
here
should do
or on the Instagram. That's
like a little
fine. We'll
speed
figure it
dating.
out.
I'll be the moderator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll play along for the day.
But we're gonna do a
Um,
part 2. We're definitely gonna do a part 2.
yeah.
So we thank you so much for tuning in, and we
Don't
hope that
forget
you'll
to
come back.
like.
Yes.
Yeah, don't forget to comment, subscribe. We are on all the platforms: TikTok,
Yep.
Instagram. Oh, we on Facebook. If we are not on Facebook, we'll be getting on Facebook to make I think we should have a little community center over there so we can actually have more time, like conversations back and forth. You could drop your prayer requests, all that kind of stuff in there. But yes, please share. If you're enjoying our conversations, share, and share again.
Until next time, see you later.
Bye.